Hey there, Exponential. My name's Rob Lauder. I help lead the creative team here at the Summit Church in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina. And one of the cool things that I get to do as part of being on this staff is to really explore new ways of doing ministry and explore new tools that we can use as a church to help shepherd our people better and to proclaim the gospel in RDU and around the world. And so I'm really excited to be here and just take a few minutes to jump on and to tell you what I've learned over the past couple of years here, engaging with AI tools and really pushing the limits on what they can do and finding ways to use them in a ministry context, in a creative context, et cetera. And so for the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to go into the idea of generative AI and what is it good for? Like, what can a pastor or a church leader or a church staffer do with these tools today, right here, right now? And every time I give a talk like this, I need to preface that by the time this talk comes out, the landscape may have changed entirely. And so everything that I'm going to share with you right now is great for now, but also know that this space is moving really quickly. And the tools that we're going to talk about, the techniques that we might talk about, they might change in a hurry. But the principles that we're going to cover should remain true. And so I want to start off by answering the question, what is generative AI? Like, we talk about AI, there's a lot of things that might come to mind, Skynet, whatever. So what is generative AI? And so the way I define AI, generative AI specifically, is generative AI is a category of tools that we can use to help us do the work of ministry. And there's a few key words that I want to hone in on there. First is generative AI is a tool, right? It's a tool in your creative toolbox. It's a tool in your ministry toolbox, just like Photoshop or PowerPoint. Just like a hammer needs a skilled carpenter to build a sturdy house, AI needs a knowledgeable user to help harness its full potential. And so while it's a valuable addition to your toolkit, remember that AI still operates under your guidance, tailored to the unique needs and contours of your ministry. And so it's not a one-click solve it all for you solution. So that brings us to the second key term, and that's that generative AI can help us. It can help us do the work of ministry. It can't do the work of ministry for us. My friend and colleague Jason Moore says that AI is more of a do it with you than a do it for you. And so AI might excel in automating mundane tasks like sorting through emails, compiling data, maybe even suggesting some sermon topics, but it lacks the creativity and emotional intelligence and ethical judgment that only you, the human, can bring to the table. The third thing that I want to draw our attention to in that definition is that generative AI can help us do the work of ministry. And so it can't do the work of ministry for us, but it can help us do the work of ministry. And what I mean by work of ministry here is that whatever work that you do in your ministry context that helps bring the kingdom of God closer to earth and takes care of the saints that are in our church, that's the work of ministry. And so that could be anything from sermon preparation to administration to creative work. AI can help you in ways that help you become more efficient, more precise, and more creative in that ministry role. And so how should a pastor or church leader approach using AI in ministry? $1 million question. When you're using AI tools, my advice is to interact with them as if you're working with an intern. So there's some pros and cons, right, to working with an intern. One, they both work for free. Your AI and your intern are working for you for free. Neither of them needs sleep. They both desperately want to earn your attention and your approval. But then the downsides are that both an intern and your AI, they don't know your organization, right? You need to give it very clear instructions about what you want the AI or the intern to accomplish. Otherwise, it's not going to get done correctly. It might not get it right the first time, and so you need to give it feedback. And you probably shouldn't give them any mission-critical tasks. So just like an intern, treat AI in much the same way. Generally speaking, the higher the stakes and the closer the touch points to your congregation, the less AI should be involved and the more involved you should be in the process. So let's talk about some specific areas where you can use AI in ministry and in the work of ministry within your church, whatever role that might be. I help lead the creative team here at Summit, and so I use AI frequently in creative tasks. AI is a really valuable addition to my creative process. It's helped me to iterate faster, brainstorm new ideas, be more creative, create assets. And so here's just a couple ways that you could use AI in a creative context. First one is to get inspiration, right? So if I'm starting a new project, what is the first thing to start with? It starts with a brainstorm. Like hopefully I'll have a bunch of people in the room from my team, but if you don't have a bunch of people on your team to be a sounding board, AI can be a great tool. So you just jump onto ChatGPT, for example, and say, hey, I'm planning a sermon series on the book of Jonah. What are some angles that I could take on that? And you don't have to just take it as it spits it out, but it's just generating ideas for you. Or you can go to an image generator like Midjourney or like DALL-E in ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to explore some visuals for a sermon series on the book of Jonah, or this new thing that we've got coming up, or an Easter invite, or whatever you're working on, and say, just brainstorm some ideas for me. And again, you don't have to take exactly what spits out, but you can use that as a starting point to kickstart the creative process. You can also use it to create stock assets. And so that could be images, that could be audio, that could be video. Generative AI tools have come a long way in the past year, and they're only going to get better. I routinely am using AI imagery as components in creative pieces that I'm producing. And so still it takes me to jump in there and do some of the work, and maybe clean up a few mistakes that the AI might make. But I can actually generate stock assets, and they are usable assets that I can use just like a stock photo or any other creative resource in a creative piece. I also use it to overcome writer's block. So if I'm stuck on something, I'll just go to ChatGPT and paste in a script and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. I'm kind of stuck on this area. Help me think through it. And it will work just like a creative partner, and we can converse back and forth to get past that writer's block and to get moving with the creative process again. And then also you can use it for critique. So on the back end, hey, here's the thing that I just made. Look at this through the lens of a critic and play devil's advocate and give me some feedback on it from that perspective. And so it can only help you get better at what you do. Another area where you can use AI, and I use AI frequently, is in the area of personal development. And so that means as a leader, how can I use AI tools to help me grow? One of the things that I have really enjoyed having chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini in my toolbox is that I can learn something new in record time, right? So what used to take like a lot of digging on Google and trying to find the right articles to answer my specific question, I can just go to ChatGPT and I say, hey, like, how do I do this thing? Like if I'm, I do some development work. So how do I write this piece of code? I don't know anything about it. Help me get started. And it can give me tailored advice to the specific task that I'm working on, and it can help me learn that task very quickly. I participated in an AI hackathon last year, and I wrote 20,000 lines of code in 24 hours, and I learned a brand new programming language in 5 hours and wrote a native iOS app for the first time. So you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with the help of an expert like ChatGPT on your team. You can also use it to plan a project. And so think of ChatGPT or Claude as a project manager and say, hey, I'm about to do this project. So say you've got a video shoot coming up or you're working on a sermon series. First, what are the steps that I need to go through in order to accomplish this task? And it'll suggest some steps. And then you can say, okay, let's start with step one. Ask me some clarifying questions to help get the ball rolling on that. And you can have ChatGPT walk you through that project and plan that project for you and help you keep track of that project along the way. You can also use, I call this the don't get fired technique. You can use ChatGPT to review like the tone of your emails. And so if I'm like really frustrated about something, I'm getting ready to send off a frustrated email, I can say, whoa, hey, hold on a minute. I might not be in the emotional state to write this coherently. Hey, ChatGPT, clean this up for me. And again, you don't have to take exactly what it spits out, but it can be a sounding board and it can help you think through that process a little bit better. A third area where you can use AI tools is in creating content. And so every church communicator, every church leader, you create content of some sort at some point in your day-to-day. That could be social media content, that could be a newsletter, what have you. One of the most common questions I receive is like, hey, Rob, how can I use ChatGPT to take my sermon on the weekend and turn it into great stuff that I can parse out and send out to my congregation? And so at Summit, we have the analogy of the carrot farmer. And so the story goes that there was a land full of carrot farmers, and they all grew carrots and they all sold carrots and they all did pretty well because they grew great carrots. But one farmer started to do like night and day, be more productive than the rest and do far better than the rest. And they're like, what is this guy doing? And they look, and he's not just growing and selling carrots. He's growing the carrots, but then he's turning those carrots into all the derivative pieces. So he's carrot sticks, crinkle cut carrots, carrot cake, whatever throw it all together. There's so many different things that you can make with carrots. And so he was taking that raw material and breaking it down into derivative pieces so that he could get that, that great content that he was producing and get it out in more different and unique ways. And so AI is great to help you do that. Paste in a sermon transcript and say, hey, give me 5 social media posts about this. Find 5 quotes that I can use as Instagram reels. There's dedicated tools out there that you can just throw your sermon video at it and it'll parse it and give you the clips cut, ready to go with captions on them and everything. Also, I'm using a mic right now and I've got pretty good audio, but what if I don't have great audio? Well, there's a tool, Adobe Podcast, that can help clean up audio and take horrible audio and make it sound good. So that's another way that AI could help in the creative process. You can also transcribe audio. So every time I do a presentation like this, I just take the audio recording, throw it in AI, and it transcribes it for me. And then I've got the text, and I can use that in the same way I would a sermon. If you're a extemporaneous preacher and you don't have a manuscript, this could give you a manuscript that you can then use and give a PDF of your sermon content. So there's all sorts of great ways that ChatGPT can help you in the content creation process. What if you're an admin though? What if you are an administrative assistant, the church secretary, you're a receptionist, you're kind of a ministry leader that kind of does more behind the scenes work. AI is a huge tool for the administrative work as well. We just mentioned social media. If you are responsible for maintaining a social media calendar, you can have ChatGPT create a social media calendar for you. And if you're using some of the cool tools like custom GPTs that have actions that you can link them into your social media account, you can actually have it schedule the content for you. It is absolutely insane what you can do with AI these days. You can also curate a weekly newsletter or a bulletin. And so just point the chatbot to your website, say, hey, here's our events page. Fetch the latest events. Give me a document that I can use to take this week's events and put them into our bulletin, for example. You can use it to plan events from scratch and just say, hey, we're planning this event. What do we need to do? Help me walk through that. One cool thing that I do on occasion is I use ChatGPT to help me analyze data. And so ChatGPT has what's called code interpreter. It can actually chew through a spreadsheet and analyze the data that's in it, and give you all sorts of great insights into things like attendance or website traffic or whatever data you have. As long as you know the questions to ask and you can guide ChatGPT to answer those questions, it can do all the hard work for you and create tables and graphs and all these other cool things. You can summarize meeting notes. So, after a meeting, just leave your phone there recording, throw it into AI and say, hey, summarize this for me. And then you can have action steps that you can send out to your team. You can use it to schedule volunteers. Hey, here's our upcoming volunteer opportunities. Here's our schedule for, where our volunteers are able to serve. Match these up and put them into a schedule for me. What would take, a day of work might take an hour or less. Finally, let's talk about I think the most controversial area where AI could help with doing the work of ministry, and that's in sermon prep and research. There's a misconception with AI tools that if I'm a pastor and I'm using AI to help produce my sermon, that all I'm going to do is jump in and click a button and it's going to get a sermon and write it for me, and then I'm just going to go stand in front of my congregation and preach it. And that's not the case. Sure, people can do that, but people can do the same thing with Google and just pull a transcript offline and preach it. But where ChatGPT and other tools like it really shine is where you use it as a research assistant in the sermon preparation process. You're still the one with the Imago Dei, the Holy Spirit in you. You're the one that knows your congregation, but you can use ChatGPT as a tool to just dive in and really explore the richness of Scripture, and in the same way that you'd have a table full of commentaries. AI tools are trained on the entire corpus of Christian literature for the past 2,000 years. You can ask great questions, and as long as you're framing it in a way that it knows to give you a Christian response, which it's getting really, really good at, by the way, you can use it in that way to be a research assistant, be a sounding board to help point you in the direction of new things. So I use ChatGPT when I'm preparing a message or when I'm preparing to lead my small group on a Tuesday night. I can just go deeper in Scripture and ask questions about the Bible and say, hey, like I'm studying this passage and we're studying John. I am the door, right? Where Jesus says, I am the door and the sheep know my voice. I'm like, oh, that's weird though. Like, how's Jesus a door? What does that mean? And so I could just ask that question and engage with it and get really good, well-reasoned answers. And if I'm skeptical, I can be like, are you sure about that? Like, where's the evidence for that? And it can provide that evidence and back up what it's telling you. You can also use it to repurpose your sermon content into Bible engagement content. And so I've actually written a custom GPT that you can upload a transcript to, and it will read the transcript. And I've given it a format that I want it to create discussion guides and prayer resources for, and it'll follow that format with the instructions that I give it. And I can use it to at least give me a very good first draft of a group discussion guide that I can use in my small group, for example. I have used it just verbatim as a small group discussion guide, and my small group would never know. And as long as it accomplishes the goal of facilitating conversation, then great. I'm not looking at ChatGPT to be my pastor. I'm the one in the pastoral role. The Chat GPT or the LLM is the one that's just helping equip me to do the work of my ministry, right? If you're preparing a sermon, you can get some context or illustrations about the passage that you're working on, like the John 11, whatever reference it is, I am the door passage. Like I can use that to say, give me the historical context behind this. And I found out it's like, okay, apparently the shepherd was the door. Like he was literally the door to the pen where the sheep were contained. And so he was the one by which they came in and out. He was the one that was standing there and protecting. And I can ask those questions, get that context, get some illustration and things like that. You can also use it to play devil's advocate. So, believe it or not, there are going to be people who are skeptical or hostile to the gospel in your congregation that you might have forgotten what it's like to think like they do or to have questions like they do. And you could say, hey, ChatGPT, here's my sermon. Play devil's advocate and push back on this. And, what questions would someone who's questioning faith have? What questions would someone who's hurting have? And things like that. And then finally, you can use it to organize your ideas. So, if I'm just, a lot of times in my sermon prep process, I'll just take a gazillion notes. I'm just like, drawing lines and scribbling all over the place and it's all disjointed. I can throw that into ChatGPT and ChatGPT can actually read the image that I give it. I don't even need to transcribe it and say, hey, organize this into some notes that I can use to preach from. And it can organize all my crazy random thoughts, with pretty good accuracy. And then I can use that to build my sermon. So that's a huge time saver and a huge way to get just out of my head and clarify ideas. So that's a bunch of ways that you can use tools like ChatGPT or LLMs in the process of doing the work of ministry. We talked about ways to use them in the creative process. We talked about ways to use them for personal development. We looked at ways to use them to create content, to do administrative work, to do sermon prep and research. Like the sky is the limit. There is no more exciting time to be alive for the Christian leader. So that might be like overwhelmed to you though. Like my MO is I will give you all the ways and I will dump them on you. And from here, it's your choice to either like go figure out something to do with it or to just be like, that's too much. I'm not going to deal with it. So let me help you get started and not be so crazy overwhelmed that you're going to freeze up. And so here's what I would recommend for you to get started. One, start by choosing one task in your day-to-day, like one repetitive task that you do over and over, something that you could give to an intern, for example, and then figure out how AI can help you do it faster or better or easier or more effectively. Like, just start with one little thing. And then from there, you'll be able to explore the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Point two would be to remember to use ChatGPT in the same way that you would an intern. Your intern, again, doesn't know your organization. They need some extra handholding and support. They might not get it right the first time. And you don't want to give them critical tasks. So remember that particularly early in your use of AI as you're learning its strengths and weaknesses and limits. Also be conversational, like give feedback. It is not a human. but a lot of times, like, we can kind of anthropomorphize it, and it sounds like a human, and we think it's a human. But I think one mistake that first-time users of AI make is that they think of it like a machine. They think of it like Google rather than a conversational partner. And so be conversational, like give feedback. It's like it simulates a conversation, and that's what it's designed to do. So use it in that way. Also ask questions, right? So be intensely curious about what can this thing do? Like, how can this thing help me? And there's like every day I find something new that these tools can do that I'm like, wow, that's kind of surprising. Like, I didn't even know that. Just like challenge your status quo and be like, does it have to be this way? Can it be better? Can we use these tools well? And then also part of asking questions is to be skeptical and say, like, where should I not use these? I've got probably a longer list of things that I will not use AI to do than I do of things that I will use AI to do, because either the technology is not there, it's not reliable, it's not trustworthy. But because I've used it, I know the limits, and I can explore those limits and use it for its strengths while mitigating its weaknesses. And then finally, just start. Like, just start somewhere. Do something. Do one thing with AI. After you watch this video, create a ChatGPT account, create a Midjourney account, and create an image. Like, there's the best way to get started is just start and do the first thing. So that's my encouragement to you. I hope you've learned all sorts of great ways that you can use AI in the work of ministry to help you do your role, whatever that is, better. And I hope to connect with you at the next event. So we'll see you guys. Bye.